Anthony Joshua is back in the gym, training with serious focus and power for his fight with Jake Paul. Every session is a warning. AJ is coming prepared, sharp, and ready to make Jake Paul pay for every mistake. He's not just training hard, he's also making bold claims, saying, he stated, "Jake or anyone can get this work. No mercy. I took some time out and I'm coming back with a mega show. It's a big opportunity for me." These words show he is not looking past anyone and is ready for all challengers. He sounds hungry, fresh, and fully motivated after his break from the ring. Fans can feel that he wants to put on a huge performance, not just scrape a simple win. For Jake Paul, this means he is not only facing a famous name, but a fully switched on Joshua. Every punch in training now is thrown with purpose, like a message sent straight to his next opponent. If this mindset carries into fight night, the world could see a very dangerous version of AJ step through the ropes. And just when people thought the talk was over, he raised the stakes again. With a cold warning to Jake and the whole boxing world, he stated, "Mark my words, you'll see a lot more fighters take these opportunities in the future. I'm about to break the internet over Jake Paul's face." With that, the build-up moved to a whole new level. He is not just fighting for a win now, he is chasing a moment that shocks everyone watching. Fans can feel that something explosive might be coming when these two finally share the ring. The way he speaks makes it sound like he already sees the damage he wants to do on fight night. For Jake, every word is a reminder that this is not just another YouTube-style event. This is real heavyweight danger. If AJ backs up this talk with his punches, this clash could turn into one of the most talked about nights in modern boxing. If that wasn't enough, other voices from the boxing world are breaking down the matchup in a very cold, honest way. Former world champion David Haye says this fight is not just a normal boxing match, but a huge show the whole world will be watching.
It's going to be a massive, massive spectacle. Anthony Joshua will be a massive 100-to-1 favorite, in my opinion. Not sure what the rules are going to be. Is it going to be sanctioned? Is it going to be an exhibition? Are you allowed to knock out the other person? Remains to be seen, but I'll be tuning in for sure.
Haye's reaction makes the fight feel even more dramatic because he sounds excited but also a bit unsure about what we're really going to see. He points out that the format and rules could change everything, which keeps fans guessing right until fight night. Is this going to be a full-on war where knockouts are allowed, or a safer exhibition that still pulls crazy numbers? That question hangs over the whole event and adds extra tension to every clip and every promo, with a veteran like Haye saying he'll definitely be watching. You know, this isn't just another YouTube circus. David Haye goes even deeper and looks at the matchup from a pure boxing point of view. This time he puts emotion aside and really studies whether Jake Paul has any real chance against Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, it's everything. A lot of the advantages are stacked. Pretty much all of the advantages are stacked in AJ's corner. You know, the experience. He's got the size, the speed, the knowledge. He's been there, seen it, done it. You know, and Jake Paul's a relative novice to box. And if you look at his opponents and who they've beaten, who he's beaten, he's fighting, you know, a 58-year-old Mike Tyson. You know, you can't really count that. You know, he's fighting mixed martial arts fighters who don't have a boxing background, bare knuckle fighters, not a boxing, you know. It's hard to make a case for why Jake Paul has a chance to win a round, let alone the fight.
Haye weighs up the skills, the size, the experience, and it all seems to lean heavily toward AJ. He reminds viewers that Joshua has spent years at the top level, while Jake is still new to real boxing, built mostly on names from other sports and faded legends. When Haye talks like this, the fight starts to sound less like a 50-50 clash and more like a dangerous test Jake might not be ready for. That's where the suspense kicks in, because if the gap is really that big, how long can Jake survive under real heavyweight pressure? At the same time, fans know boxing can be cruel and unpredictable, which adds a little fear and excitement to every what if. Trainer Don Charles also shared his honest reaction to the fight news. His response shows both surprise and acceptance of how crazy modern boxing can be.
Wow, that's a wow. You know, listen, the world we live in has changed to how we know it. So, you know, anything is possible. And if that is what's happening and it's not going to be an exhibition, I'm surprised at that, because you just wouldn't put Jake Paul in the same ring as Anthony Joshua, you know, surely. But if it's for real, then it's for real. May the best man win. And I know.
Hearing him talk, you can feel that even experienced boxing minds are still trying to process this matchup. He knows anything can happen in today's fight game, but the idea of a YouTuber standing across from a former unified heavyweight champion still sounds unreal. That mix of doubt and curiosity adds even more tension to the build-up. Fans are left wondering whether this is smart business, pure madness, or a bit of both. His reaction makes it clear that if this is a real, fully sanctioned fight, the stakes are serious and the danger is real. With voices like Don Charles weighing in, the whole event starts to feel less like a stunt and more like a risky gamble that the whole world will be watching. Dan Rafael also weighed in on this fight and spoke about the weight rule for Anthony Joshua. He breaks it down in a calm way and explains why the number on the scale is not the big drama people think it is.
It's irrelevant. It's the same as when they made the Jake Paul exhibition against Gervonta Davis and the cap weight was 195 for a guy that's fought in that same ballpark within a few pounds his entire career, except for the Mike Tyson fight. So to tell AJ that he has to weigh 245, he's going to cut literally about 4 or 5 pounds from where he's been for most of his recent fights. And by the way, he's fought plenty of fights under 245, so I don't even view that as a stipulation. It's just nonsense.
He reminds fans that AJ has boxed at around this weight many times in his career, so the limit sounds scary in headlines, but in real life, it hardly changes anything for Joshua. Rafael treats this clause more like a talking point than a real trap in the contract. At the same time, he shows how small rule details can be used to hype the fight and confuse casual viewers. It makes people think harder about what is a real advantage and what is just clever promotion. By the end of his take, the numbers feel clearer, but the danger for Jake inside the ring still feels huge. Dan Rafael further gives his honest view on the fight itself as a business move. He admits he doesn't fully love it, but he explains why this matchup still beats some of the other ideas that were once on the table.
I don't love it, but I get it. I understand the business elements, but in terms of just the matchup, if you said to me, you can either see Jake Paul fight Anthony Joshua in an official fight, or you can watch him fight an exhibition match against Tank Davis, I would take him against Anthony Joshua all day long. To me, this is a million times better than what I always have thought was a very ill-conceived event with Tank Davis. So whatever you think about Jake and some of the types of fights that he has made, you got to give him credit for at least everybody has said for a long time now, fight a real fighter, fight a real boxer. Well, Anthony Joshua was absolutely a real boxer, a real fighter. You can't deny that. Like you said, 2-time world champion.
He compares this fight to the old talk of a Jake Paul exhibition with Gervonta Tank Davis. In his view, facing AJ in a real official bout is a much bigger and more serious step. Rafael points out that whatever you think about Jake, people have been yelling for him to face a real proven boxer. Now he's walking straight toward a 2-time world champion and Olympic gold medalist. That decision turns this from a circus-style event into something that feels more like a real test. It leaves fans asking if Jake has bitten off too much, or if he's about to shock everyone by even surviving in there. Dan Rafael also looks closely at where Anthony Joshua is in his career right now. He talks about the injuries, the layoff, and the knockout loss, but also reminds people what level AJ is still operating at.
He may not be at what he was when he was absolute peak. There's no doubt that Anthony Joshua was beyond his apex of his career. But even though he'll be coming off of about a 14-month layoff. He's coming off having had surgery on his elbow. He's coming off of a very, very, very difficult, brutal, hard knockout loss in the Dubois fight. But all that said, I still think he's got enough to compete with any heavyweight in the world, much less a fighter like Jake Paul, who is still...
He admits Joshua is no longer at the absolute peak version we saw years ago. Rafael lists the surgery, the long break, and the brutal defeat, painting a picture of a man who has been through wars. But even with all that, he still sees AJ as good enough to hang with any top heavyweight on the planet. When you put that next to someone with Jake's limited experience, the gap looks huge again. It turns the fight into a story of a slightly faded giant against a brave newcomer stepping into deep water. That mix of vulnerability and power around Joshua adds a sharp edge of suspense to every round people are imagining. Dan Rafael then turns the spotlight fully onto Jake Paul's record. He looks past the hype and walks fans through the kind of opponents Jake has really been facing.
In the view of many and most, and myself and probably you and any number of people, still essentially a novice who has done a good job in navigating a difficult business and making a lot of money in what are big events, but not really putting himself too much at risk. Anybody that really understands boxing, I had to understand that the Tyson fight was no risk, and that the Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. fight, which was his most recent fight, was extraordinarily limited risk. Those are the two fights he's had in his most recent two fights. Those are so-called real fighters, but not for a long, long time. Chavez is a decade or so past when he was best, and Tyson had been retired 19 years and hadn't been, even when he was still an active fighter, hadn't been at his best over the last decade of his career. So they were guys with big names, but not threats. And the other fighters that he's faced have been a collection of either non-combat athletes, MMA fighters who've decided to come into boxing or had very limited experience in boxing. And then, a couple of guys in boxing that didn't have a lot of experience who were boxers, but had been off, for a long time. A couple of guys you never heard of before he fought those guys, and those guys you'll never hear of again.
He points out how many of Jake's fights were against men with big names, but low real threat at this stage of their careers. Retired legends, faded ex-champions, MMA fighters, and boxers with long layoffs or thin records fill up that list. Rafael explains how this was smart business, letting Jake build his brand without taking too much damage. But that history makes stepping in with Joshua feel like a totally different world. This time, there is no retired icon, no half-active opponent, no soft spot in the matchmaking. It sets the stage for a night where, for the first time, Jake may be standing across from a man who can truly hurt him with every clean punch. Finally, Dan Rafael gives Jake Paul some credit while still sounding alarmed about the danger ahead. He admits Jake has improved, but shares what real boxing insiders told him about this matchup.
Of course, the fight against Tommy Fury, which I know he lost, but it was like a split decision, as my recollection says, and it was awfully close. And for my perspective is, whatever you think about it, Jake Paul certainly has gotten better since he fought Tommy Fury. He's certainly gotten better over the last number of fights. Now, is he at an elite world-class level? Probably not yet. He may never get to that level, but so you got to give him props. He's taken on a guy that I spend part of my morning talking to different boxing matchmakers, people I've known for decades in this business, who have vast experience of building fighters and moving fighters and developing them, and they know a lot better than you or me what they're looking at. And to a person, they were like, they don't understand why Jake took this fight, because they think it's, one person used the word of decapitation. So he's going to be a monstrous underdog against a massive puncher.
He says Jake is clearly better now than he was in the Tommy Fury fight, sharper and more settled as a boxer. But Rafael also reveals that experienced matchmakers he spoke to are baffled by this choice of opponent. Behind the scenes, some of them are using words that sound brutal to describe what could happen. They see Jake going in as a huge underdog against a naturally massive puncher who knows how to finish hurt fighters. That inside talk turns the fight into something that feels less like a smart career move and more like a dangerous gamble. For viewers, it adds a chilling thrill. Either Jake proves everyone wrong, or we witness the kind of one-sided beating people will talk about for years. Boxing coach Daly Perales explains that he isn't shocked by this fight at all. He says the game has changed so much that almost anything can happen when big money is involved.
Not a shock. Not a shock, because I'm open-minded. I know how this game works, There's been exhibitions been done all the way back to Muhammad Ali that's done exhibitions. And now when you have so much money involved in the sport now these days, nothing surprises me.
He reminds fans that exhibitions and wild matchups have been around since the days of Muhammad Ali. He demonstrates how modern boxing has become a multifaceted blend of sport, business, and entertainment. That makes this matchup feel crazy, but also very real at the same time. Hearing him talk, you get the sense that nothing is off limits anymore when the payday is huge. It adds a strange tension, because if this is normal now, you start to wonder what the next shock could be. His calm tone makes it even more chilling, like he knows exactly how dangerous and unpredictable this new era can become. Daly Perales also talks more directly about what he thinks will happen in the ring. He's honest about expecting Anthony Joshua to win, but he also gives Jake Paul credit for the choice he's made.
It does and it doesn't. Obviously, I think Anthony Joshua's going to knock him out. But at the same time, I don't think it's a thing where people are going to laugh at Jake Paul when that happens. I reckon it's very smart from Jake Paul, because it's about getting the respect from the real boxing world. Like, okay, he lost, he got knocked out, but he's got some balls to get in there and face a 2-time heavyweight champion of the world that's still active and trying to become heavyweight champion for the 3rd time. So this is why people have got to respect Jake Paul for taking the fight. I don't think he's going to win, obviously, but the fact that he's getting in there, he's going to earn everyone's respect.
He explains that even if Jake gets knocked out, he'll still earn real respect from the boxing world. Stepping in with an active 2-time heavyweight champion is not something many would dare to do. Perales sees this as Jake finally asking to be judged like a proper fighter, not just an internet star. That idea adds drama because people won't just laugh if he loses, they'll judge how he loses. If he shows heart and toughness, his status in boxing could change overnight. It turns the fight into more than just a result on paper. It becomes a test of courage in front of millions. Then Daily Perales speaks like a coach who understands both the danger and the challenge. He admits he would think Jake is crazy, but he would still try to build a smart plan to survive and perform.
I mean, I'll say you're stupid, mate, but we're gonna come up with a plan. It's a bit like, you know, when Deji come to me and goes, we're fighting Floyd Mayweather, I said, what? Floyd, are you sure? So it was about just getting Deji to have a game plan that not only gives a good account of himself, but also keeps him safe as well, because he's nowhere near a level of a Floyd Mayweather. So it's the same thing. His coaches are going to do a game plan what hopefully will give a good account of himself, but also be able to know how to keep himself safe in there, because let's not be mistaken here. If Joshua lands clean on Jake Paul's chin, he could end up in a very bad way. So I know it's all entertainment and they're going to break records and Netflix and all that kind of stuff, but we have to understand the dangers that are involved in boxing. And, you know, that's why I say people got to respect Jake Paul for doing this, because he's at risk.
He compares it to when he helped Deji prepare for Floyd Mayweather, focusing on safety and pride at the same time. With Joshua, he says the stakes are even higher because one clean shot could put Jake in serious trouble. That warning changes the mood from fun hype to something much darker. Perales talks about records being broken and big streaming numbers, but keeps bringing the focus back to the risk. You can feel that behind the cameras, real fear exists about what could happen if Jake gets caught. It makes viewers see the fight not just as entertainment, but as a night where the price of stepping in might be very heavy. Daily Perales also explained that he would never take this fight for his own fighter. His answer shows how worried he really is about Jake stepping in with a still active Anthony Joshua.
No, if Anthony Joshua was retired and he didn't really care about being pro and he weren't trying to be 3-time heavyweight champion of the world, then yeah, do you know what I mean? You just know how it's gonna go, you know. So yeah, I'm worried for Jake Paul, to be honest with you. It's Anthony Joshua. He's still active. He's not a retired fighter. He's an active fighter that can really bang and hit. Do you know what I mean? So, you know what? I'm gonna play a little bit of devil's advocate here, right? No matter what, Anthony Joshua's gonna win.
He explains that if AJ were retired and done chasing world titles, he might feel different. But with Joshua still hunting a 3rd heavyweight crown, Perales sees this as an extremely dangerous choice. He reminds everyone that AJ is not some soft legend from the past. He is a live, powerful threat. That makes Jake's decision feel less like a fun stunt and more like walking into a storm. Even while he plays devil's advocate, he can't see any outcome where Joshua doesn't win. Hearing that from a coach adds a heavy sense of dread over how bad it could get if things go wrong. Finally, Daily Perales talks about the one big question that haunts this fight, not if AJ wins, but how he wins. He breaks down why even the style of the victory will change how fans react afterward.
It's how he's gonna win. If it's points, and then Joshua won't care. Obviously, he's getting bloody 50 million or whatever he's getting, so he won't care. But the boxing people will be like, what the hell is this?
Well, if it goes to points, that's a Jake Paul win.
Exactly. So I reckon it will be a knockout, but what kind of knockout? So just had a thought. I was talking with one of my friends. Don't be surprised if the knockout is to the body and not the chin.
He says that if the fight somehow goes the full distance, it will feel like a moral win for Jake Paul. For hardcore boxing people, that kind of result would raise serious doubts about Joshua. That pressure makes a knockout feel almost expected, like anything less would be a disappointment. Perales even hints that the finish might not come from a classic headshot, but something more surprising to the body. That idea makes every punch to the ribs or stomach sound like a possible ending blow. It leaves fans imagining all the ways this could end badly for Jake and wondering just how ruthless AJ will choose to be on the night. Dave Allen also weighed in on what Anthony Joshua has done in the sport. He reminds everyone that behind all the jokes and criticism, AJ's record tells a very different story.
Anthony Joshua, we don't need to go through his record and stuff. One of the best heavyweights in the last 10-15 years. He gets a lot of stick, but he has to go down as one of the best. Who would you put above him? Usyk. Beat him twice. If we're talking resume, Joshua probably got the best in terms of who he's facing, who he's beat. Probably got the best. Usyk obviously only had 8 fights at heavyweight. Joshua's had 20, whatever he's had.
Allen talks about how many top names Joshua has already faced and beaten, and how his list of opponents stacks up with anyone from this era. Hearing that from a fellow fighter makes you look at AJ not just as a big name, but as a man who's been in with killers for years. It adds extra weight to this matchup because Jake isn't just stepping in with a star, he's stepping in with someone battle-tested at the very highest level. When Allen says Joshua's resume is unbelievable, it makes the gap in experience feel even wider. That gap is where the tension lives, because if a man with that kind of history turns up switched on, every round could feel like a countdown to something brutal. And that's exactly what makes fans both excited and nervous about what might happen when the first bell rings. This fight feels like a crazy mix of danger, business, and pure curiosity. Almost everyone agrees Anthony Joshua should be a huge favorite, but at the same time, people are giving Jake Paul respect for even saying yes to this kind of challenge. If AJ comes in focused and ruthless, this could be a very short and brutal night. But if Jake somehow survives, has moments of success, or even makes it to the final bell, the whole story around him will change. What do you think? Is Jake brave or crazy for taking this fight? Do you see any way he can shock the world? How do you think AJ will choose to finish it? Quick destruction or slow breakdown? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tune in for more videos like this.